I do have one question that was left over from the synthesis section, Gerald. And it says, are there any concerns about the validity of a meta-analysis from a rapid review?
No, I don't think so. If you adhere to the standards of how meta-analysis should be conducted. So you have to consider heterogeneity, you have to consider publication bias, you need to think about the model that you use, but otherwise, no. So rapid reviews do not preclude meta-analysis.
I would add to that to say that, any review, systematic or rapid, is really only as good as the search that's done, and the selection and the filtering of studies. There's really fantastic guidance around searching for rapid reviews in the paper that addresses that and in webinar number 2. So I would refer people to those as well. Also, there's really no big body of empiric literature that compares rapid reviews and systematic reviews. There's a tiny body of literature, but I would say that thus far there really isn't a demonstration that they are less valid than systematic reviews on average.
Yeah, I would agree. They might miss studies, but most of the time, the missed studies would not change the conclusions.
Yeah. Okay. Got another good question here. This is around whether, Gerald, you have any recommendations to engage key stakeholders in the review conduct process, and at what stages you're really concerned about involving stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. So there is an entire webinar about this. That's webinar 1. The issue with engaging stakeholders with rapid reviews often is that all of this is under some time pressure, but ideally you should take the time in the beginning to really figure out what is important for end users and what is important for knowledge users, and then focus the key questions, the PICOs, on what is most important for them. So that helps you to narrow the scope, and it makes the review more useful for the knowledge users. And then, of course, for grade, for example, for rating the importance of outcomes, if you can involve knowledge users, patients, to rate the importance of outcomes, that also gives you extremely valuable information.
Yeah, I think the other thing that is worth mentioning is perhaps that rapid reviews are almost always commissioned for a specific need. And so the link to the knowledge user, the commissioner, is often very explicit, and in some ways can be easier than a systematic review. Okay, we've got a great question here in the chat. Can you estimate the percentage of what sort of time economies can be gained or made by applying the rapid review guidance compared to a systematic review, for the review as a whole, and then specifically for the synthesis and grading and recommendations that might come out of it?
Yeah, that is a very difficult question. I'm not sure if I can answer that, because very often it's sort of the other way around, and you know that you have 6 months to answer something, and you have to tweak the methods and make methodological shortcuts to meet this time frame. So I'm sorry, I could not actually provide a percentage of time saving. I don't know, Valerie, if you are aware of anything.
The person who's asked this question is actually very experienced at rapid reviews, so I'm sort of wondering what they might pop in the chat as their estimate as well. I'm a lumper, not a splitter, so half to 2/3, but I think most of the efficiency of a rapid review really has to do with focus, with deciding a limited number of questions, a limited number of outcomes, and getting really clear and clean about what the knowledge user absolutely needs to make the decision. And not the nice to have things around the edges, but the critical bits.
Yeah.
Next question is it starts with a comment about the synthesis and rating of certainty of evidence parts in a rapid review seems to not be a huge part of the full review process that could maybe save you time. So what part would you say would be the most important to save resources and time? I've given my take on that, having to do with focus. What would you say, Gerald?
Yeah, definitely having to do with focus, and then also with screening the literature. So we also have a webinar about that, whether you apply dual screening over all abstracts, or if you use software to assist you with screening, or single screening after you've reached a certain number of dual screening results. Yeah, probably the potential of time saving is not in evidence synthesis and rating the certainty of evidence. It is in other elements of the literature review.
Great, thank you for that. The person who had posed the question that we were just talking about has posted in the chat to say, Gerald, a very good answer. So we reverse engineer around time and cut cloth to fit the time available. Well stated. Yep. Another stakeholder question, and Dario has put in the chat a link to the prior webinars in this series. So I would really, commend particularly that first webinar on stakeholders and stakeholdering to you to go ahead and listen to. But any particular recommendations for engaging young stakeholders or adolescent knowledge users?
Yeah, very difficult. Very difficult. I know I do not have any specific recommendations how to engage them. I don't. I also do not know how represented they are within Cochrane. Yeah, no. Maybe someone does.
They're way better at online types of tools and media than us dinosaurs are. So I guess my suggestion would be to engage them where they are online.
Yeah.
Next question. In this person's experience, data extraction can be very time consuming, but it's obviously critical to do it properly so that errors are not introduced. Do you have any suggestions about how to expedite that process and any differences between a full systematic review and a rapid review?
Yeah, so webinar 3 deals with data extraction. I think most data extraction is important, but probably not for all elements of the data that we use. So if there are mistakes in patient characteristics or study characteristics, it's less detrimental than mistakes in data that you use for meta-analysis or the synthesis. So these are probably where you can streamline the methods a bit. But otherwise, no, I think for data extraction for the synthesis part is really important, because that can change results and conclusions.
I would just also say that in webinar 3, another important part is emphasized that rapid reviews actually require a very experienced team, ideally, and that you want people who've done this for a while and know what they're doing. I think there's a bit of a false impression, maybe, that rapid reviews are easier than systematic reviews, and nothing could be further from the truth. They're actually more difficult and require a higher level of expertise.
Yeah, I can just echo that.
That is the last chat question. So let me do a final call out to those who are listening about any comments, any questions that you want to put in the chat here. I'll wait 30 seconds or so. Good comment here about needing more rapid review versus systematic review comparative studies. Do you want to comment on that, Gerald?
Yeah. Well, it is, there are not many that really compare rapid reviews with systematic reviews. Most method studies look at the results or the bias that you introduce when you make some methodological shortcuts. And there it really, I think we know that we will miss things with rapid reviews, but the decisive factor that we have to keep in mind is always, would it or does it change the conclusions? And throughout many of the methods that we recommend in the guidance, there actually is evidence that it does not change the conclusions, even if you miss something. So, for example, with literature searches or single versus dual screening. And certainly not with the recommendations that we just discussed about rating the certainty of evidence.
Yeah, great. Again, rapid reviews are really designed to help a knowledge user make a particular decision, take a particular action. So at the end of the day, if that can still happen in a robust way, then the rapid review has served its purpose.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, decision makers and knowledge users are willing to give up some certainty simply for speed, for getting the product earlier, and it's sort of a trading of certainty for speed. And we did a survey once, and decision makers said that it's okay for them if 1 in 10 rapid reviews actually get it completely wrong, just to get it faster, the results.
Oftentimes the alternative is to have no evidence in the decision. So they are willing to make that kind of a trade-off.